And still on environment report, food insecurity is one of the major impacts of climate change. Changing climate conditions have persistently affected agricultural productive activities in Nigeria adversely, thereby making food production unstable and unsustainable. Correspondent Kuliojo in this report examines the impact of climate change on food security. The report.
Climate change induces conditions such as desertification, erosion, and ecological devastation, thereby threatening human security in the affected regions. Food security is one of the major effects of climate change, which has obvious psychological effects on crops and livestock, such as alteration of soil nutrients, shrinking of water resources, change in relative humidity, rising temperature, as well as increased weeds and pests.
Climate change is real, and there are obvious signs, there are evidence. We have changes in the pattern of climate variables like temperature and precipitation. Oftentimes we experience some very hot moments, especially in the night, and in some places we have late onset of rains. In some places we have heavy torrential rain and erratic rainfall distribution.
Climate change is a phenomenon that is right on us globally right now. It's a global issue that everybody is battling with here and there, which is as a result of man's activity against nature, against how God has designed the structure of the earth and its atmosphere. So all those things are making the climate to change in an abnormal form, resulting in so many negative effects, which includes the concept of global warming.
Climate change also provoked droughts, floods, and environmental extremes that limit agricultural production. It has continued to be a threat to agricultural development in Nigeria, as the loss of farmlands to flood and increasing aridity in Sahel and Sudan vegetation zone have grave consequences for agricultural productivity. Poor agricultural output that results from climate change constitute major food security crisis in Nigeria, while the pattern of food production and distribution has continually been affected by climate change.
The agricultural sector, extreme temperature and drought affects the soil, and when you have farmers that are experiencing this in their farmlands, the crops will not do well. And so the impact of that is that it will affect crop yield, and then some level of scourging of the plants.
The effect on agriculture is massive, negatively massive. I have to include that word, negatively. As you can see, for instance, I think about 2 years ago in this part of the country, you would see that it did not rain on time. And you see people say, oh, God should have mercy on us. God is angry with us. That's why things are like that. But the truth of the matter is that it was not God that was angry with us. It was man's activity that led to that climate change. So it didn't rain on time.
The disruptions in the usual food production and distribution system have contributed to shortfall in supply of food and have resulted in the steady rise in food prices. The rapid population growth in Nigeria and unmatched agricultural productive output is a pointer to aggravated food security crisis. Experts speak further on some of the threats posed by climate change on food production in Nigeria.
Of course, recently in this country, we see so many states that are being flooded, and we can see the effect being that, for instance, in Kogi State, Lokoja, where there's massive flooding, the kind we've never seen in a long time, you would see that even crops that were planted were affected by the flooding. You see houses fully submerged by flood. So you know the kind of flooding we're talking about. And this is as a result of climate change. It's as a result of global warming, rising sea levels.
And when the crops do not reproduce, it affects the produce, the food that the farmers will get. By and large, we do not have these products in the market. And when we don't have these products in the market, it affects the common man. So that's one example.
What then is the solution to the problem for food security and sustainability in Nigeria?
Yes, food security is very, very essential, and is one of the things that we can talk about that make any country to be secured. Because when you are talking about an hungry man, we always say it's an angry man. Now, how we can ensure food security, and from the angle of which Nigeria Institute of Social Science is coming in, is first of all like the issue of this app, where we want this app, we want to encourage a lot of our people to go into farming. A lot of people will want to ask a lot of questions. I want to grow maize. Where and which soil condition is good for maize?
Number one, just a few hands are involved in agriculture. Many more persons will have to go into agriculture so that the impact will be minimized.
All of us need to put our hands on deck with government and everybody to ensure we do our part in ensuring that climate change is slowed down and regulated to what it is meant to be, so that everything will be normal. What we believe, like I said, it's a global issue.
Food insecurity is one of the major impacts of climate change, and it's expected that government at all levels and other stakeholders will rise to the occasion and ensure food security in Nigeria. Kunle Ojo, Galaxy TV.